So some people may sign.
Oh, a signature for one of the items?
We'll call this meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I will go ahead and lead us. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Huboy,
Present.
Chair Henderson,
Present.
Commissioner Corona,
Present.
Vice Chair Belong let us know he will not be here, so he's absent today. And Commissioner Lenore.
Verification of agenda posting.
Was Thursday, April 21st, 2023 at 2:48 PM.
Okay, we'll do the approval of minutes. In our packet, we have minutes for April 13th and March 23rd. Any discussion of the minutes? Sure.
It says Lenore moved and Lenore seconded, but Huboy seconded. Page 3 of 4 on March 23rd. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Lenore. Is there any more discussion on the minutes? You get a motion to approve the minutes.
So that we approved the minutes from March 23rd and also April 23rd. April 13th, I'm sorry, 2023 with the one attached and that one noted and correction.
Okay, and the correction was for March 23rd, correct?
No, no.
Oh,
Correction is on that item there in the agenda. I have a photo on doing ordinance amendment 2023-4.
right. Which agenda was it? Sorry, which March 23rd. Okay, got it. Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. We will begin the public input. This is a time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. Speaking cards are available in the lobby and are to be completed and given to the secretary before speaking. When the secretary calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the City Planning Commission. If you are joining us by Zoom, please click on the bottom of your screen to raise your hand. If you are joining us by Zoom using a cell phone, please press *9. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Please note that state law prohibits the Planning Commission from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Are there any speakers?
I have no speaker cards. Just give me one moment to see if there are any.
If you are joining us by Zoom, please click on the bottom of your screen to raise your hand. If you are joining us by Zoom using a cell phone, please press *.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a delay. I have no speakers online either, Chairperson Henderson.
Okay, thank you. We will close the public input and move on to public hearings. Starting with item 1, conditional use permit 2022-6, Hollister Super Incorporated. We have a staff report.
We do, yes. This will be Associate Planner Liz Gagliari.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. I'll be presenting for our first item tonight for conditional use permit 2022-6. This is an application by Hollister Super located at 1280 4th Street. And just for some additional context for the project location, this project is located in the existing Hollister Super grocery store market off of 4th Street in the West Gateway part of town. Some additional project information, as I already mentioned, the applicant is Hollister Super Inc., located in the West Gateway at 1280 4th Street, and the general plan designation for this site is also West Gateway mixed use. And the requested approval is for a conditional use permit to allow for the sale of beer, wine, and distilled spirits at the existing grocery store. So as I already mentioned, they're seeking a conditional use permit. And this is required by the Hollister Municipal Code for alcohol uses for the offsite sale of alcohol, which is permitted subject to a conditional use permit. Additionally, this project will require an alcohol beverage control license, which is issued by the California Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control. So that's a separately issued permit by that state agency. Currently, I apologize, it says Target, but Hollister Super is the applicant, and they do have an existing type 20 ABC license, which allows for the off sale of beer and wine. Tonight, they are seeking to change that to a type 21 off sale general license, which will allow for the sale of beer, wine, and distilled spirits. And with that ABC license, there is a requirement that the city make a public convenience or necessity finding. So ABC has issued a form to the city informing us of this requirement. And this is related to the concentration of ABC licenses in the existing census tract. So as outlined in the staff report, there are currently 12 off-sale general licenses permitted. Authorized, there are 3 in the census tract. So because this is considered over concentrated by ABC, the city will need to make that finding of public convenience or necessity. This is just some additional context of the census tracts that determine those areas which ABC looks at. So Hollister Super is located in census tract 3, as you can see on the map there. Currently, the grocery store is open from 6 a.m. through 10 p.m. 7 days a week. No changes to those hours of operation are proposed with this conditional use permit, nor are they proposing any changes to the existing facade. So this would just be to authorize that expanded use for alcohol sales. So for the staff analysis, we took a look at whether this was consistent with the existing zoning and determined that this use is consistent with the West Gateway zoning district, which aims to provide useful retail designations within walking distance from many of Hollister's residential areas. There's also a general plan policy to provide for economic development that assures the availability and diversity of residents serving goods and services, as well as a land use policy to retain existing small businesses and attract new ones. And we feel that this permit is aligned with all of those goals. No facade changes or changes to the existing site design are proposed with this conditional use permit. And it is exempt from CEQA pursuant to section 15301, class 1 existing facilities. So there are 2 resolutions before you tonight. The first related to the conditional use permit. The different options for the Planning Commission are 1, to adopt the resolution approving the recommendation that the City Council approve conditional use permit 2022-6. And I apologize, I will elaborate on that a little bit now. So before you tonight is are these two resolutions, and this will be a recommendation to the city council. They will need to be the authority to make the determination of the public convenience or necessity. So the item before the planning commission tonight is to make that recommendation to the city council, who will ultimately either approve, deny, or continue this item. So the second option would be to make the recommendation that the city council approve the conditional use permit with findings and conditions as modified by the planning commission. Approve a recommendation that the city council deny the conditional use permit, or to continue. Our recommendation is option 1, to approve the conditional use permit. And then the second resolution before you tonight is related to that finding of public convenience or necessity. There are 3 options before the planning commission tonight. The first being to adopt a resolution recommending that the city council make the determination for public and convenience or necessity would be served with the issuance of the type 21 ABC license for Hollister Super. The second option would be to make a recommendation to the city council that public convenience or necessity would not be served by the issuance of a type 21 ABC license. Or the third option, to continue the public hearing with some direction to staff. So we also recommend option 1 to make that finding of public convenience or necessity. So that concludes my presentation for this first item. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff from the commission?
Mr. Chair, I do have one question. So if I understand this correctly, this is just going to be an upgrade from a type 20.
Yes, that's right. So they do currently have a type 20 ABC license. So this would be to expand that to a type 21.
Thank you. I have a question. I think since we have a lot of the public here, I think it would be good if someone could discuss what it means to make a determination of public convenience or necessity.
Sure. So the public convenience or necessity finding is something that is requested by the Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control when a census tract is deemed over concentrated. So there's a few different things that over concentration can refer to. It can refer to a subject property being located in a high crime reporting district, which in this case, the police department did review this application, and this census tract is not a high crime reporting district. So that is not the case for this application, although that could be a reason that that finding is required. In this case, the overconcentration refers to the number of ABC licenses that exist in the census tract. So based on factors of the population density, ABC determines a baseline number of allowable ABC licenses for each different license type. And then any number that exceeds that recommended number of licenses would be considered an overconcentration. So it just requires an additional level of review by the governing body, in this case, the city council, to determine if the additional license will serve a convenience or necessity for the public.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff? Okay. Then we will open the public hearing at 6:14. Any speakers?
I do have a couple of speaker cards, and commission, we did receive tonight a signatures for a petition. And I'll just read the petition ban. It's a petition to ban the issuance of conditional use permit 2022-6. And it states, we, the undersigned, are concerned that if the City of Hollister Planning Commission grants Hollister Super Inc. at 1284th Street the issuance of conditional use permit 2022-6 to sell beer, wine, and distilled spirits, it will only create more exposure towards youth, as there is church 3 doors down to the right and possibilities of increased crime in the area. By signing this petition, we believe that it is not a public convenience or necessity to add another CUP 2022-6 in the West Gateway zoning district when there are already 2 businesses located at each end of the building and a 3rd business down the block on the right selling distilled spirits. And I did a quick count, and I believe there's about 150 signatures in this petition. With that written comment, I do have a speaker card for Chong So.
Who signed that, please? Who signed that? If it's public record, well, it should have been given to us if you were gonna put it into the record.
I just received it tonight
Yeah.
at this meeting. Well, I was just gonna
How
say-
many names are on it?
I believe in a quick count, I believe there's about 150.
Oh,
names.
okay, well, I'll maybe want to look at that later.
Okay,
I mean, 150 names?
there's 10 on each page with a couple that don't have 10.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a name of who gathered the signatures?
It doesn't say who gathered. It just has a background summary, and then the petition that I read out to you. And then there's a top page, although this seems to be a page in support. So I'm not sure if it goes with the petition or not, but the top page says, Dear Westside Liquors customers, we would like to sincerely express our extended gratitude on your continued patronage. If it weren't for you all, we wouldn't have been here this long. Today, we come before you to ask for your support in signing this petition. By signing this petition, it will allow us to serve you for a little bit longer. Once again, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Your support means a lot to us, management. And then it has the same message in Spanish. But the petition itself seems to be against the issuance.
Okay, so the 150 names is against, and then Westside Liquors is supporting?
That is what I am reading. I'm happy to pass this to the commission.
That's okay. And do you want to make copies or? Okay.
Yeah, we'll make copies for the commissioners, and yeah, we just received this tonight, so I'm not
Yeah, I
sure.
understand.
Thank you.
They could have brought that sooner. Am I supposed to sit here and look at that? Right now?
It was 2 there.
But it says to ban. I'm not sure. Chong So.
There's a little time. Oh, okay. Hello, my name is Chang So, resident of Hollister in San Benito County. I am owner operator of the Hollister Supermarkets. It's a family business started by Jim Gibson and my father, Hank So. We currently have 3 locations, 2 here in Hollister, 1 in San Juan Bautista. And this year happens to be our 40th anniversary. So we've been here supporting the community with our services, and the community has supported us. And in that regard, in terms of the support of our community, excuse me, we've got several requests from our customers to basically expand the offerings that we have in our store, which included spirits. And that's why we're trying to upgrade from the beer and wine to the distilled spirits. There's a lot of items that our customers are asking for, such as specialty items for the Hispanic trade, such as rompompe and caña de alcohol, and some unique tequilas and mezcal. And we're here to satisfy some of the newer residents that are actually coming into our city, because there seems to be a lot of new housing coming on in our area. The location of the liquor set would be behind counters. We have a full bore security camera set up throughout the entire store and the exterior store. So good to the fact that we've actually helped a lot of Hollister PD with accidents that are happening on the street. Let's see. We never had any issues with alcohol control or with HPD in terms of selling to minors, and nor we figure we're going to have anything like that in the future. Like I said, we're a family-owned business. We're here to support the community, and we're thankful that the community can support us as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions for the applicant from the commission? Okay.
I noticed on one of the rendering drawings that it was going to be behind glass or an enclosed case.
No, we're not going to have it behind glass, but we
Okay.
will have it behind a service counter. So it
Okay.
will not be accessible by anybody except for the employees. And the
Okay.
employees, if the customer wants something, the employees will grab it and hand it to the customer. That's a theft deterrent and also to prevent any kind of like funny business from people who are not of age.
I'm just curious, so you have two other stores that already have this
Correct.
license. So why hasn't this happened? Why now for this store?
Great question. As you know, alcohol licenses such as type 21 are very hard to get. Last year, or actually about a year and a half ago, there was a lottery that the ABC put on for a type 21 license. We applied with several other stores in the area and we happened to win. So we went through the entire process. This is basically a year and a half process to basically be in front of you. And that was the only reason. If we could have, we'd have done it a lot sooner.
Do you know if Nob Hill sells spirits?
I believe they do.
Thank you.
One question, Mr. So, would you say that your sight lines from the inside of the store out to the parking lot is adequate if there was any crime going outside taking place?
Sidelines
within the
meaning
parking
that
area?
you mean the camera system?
Well, not only the camera system, but just from viewing angles to the outside of the store.
We have, like the picture shows, we have some really large doors that are double doors that are opening up. It is tinted because we do get a lot of sun from the evening sunsets, but it's clearly visible from the outside and inside to kind of see into the street area. But our cameras, we have a set of 4 cameras that are basically shooting at all different angles because we've noticed that we've had some incidents where we need to see sidewalks along the building as well as the parking lot.
So the cameras do survey the parking lot.
Oh, yes, 24 hours a day.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Hong Yoon.
I'm not speaking, it's some translate.
That's okay. Just please come to the podium.
And
So,
Eva, with a translator, he should get double time.
okay, so you'll get,
Yeah.
you'll get 6 minutes. Yeah.
ABC법에 의하면은 600피트 안에서 교회나 가게가 있는 거는 더 이상 하지 못하는 걸로 알고 있는데.
By the ABC rules, there's a limit for the there's a ABC regulation say 600 feet at there's no need to get a permit to the liquor store. So this.
근데 그거를 법을 무시하면서까지 이렇게 라이선스를 교부하는 게 정당한지 모르겠습니다.
He doesn't understand about the even if ABC rule is there, but how come city try to get him permit for the PCN license liquor license.
지금 제가 보기에는 근본적인 목적은 이거는 밥그릇 싸움인 것 같아요. 가게 대 가게로서.
This is kind of it's kind of very end of the way he's gonna be die or he's gonna be alive for the family because he take care of the sole business at the liquor store the other place, but it's gonna be very stressful for his family.
예, 저기 헐리스 슈퍼는 저희 자세히는 모르겠는데 저희보다 10배 내지 20배는 더 큰 회사입니다.
Holy Store is a very large store. It's like more than 10, 20 times than size. So
그런데 그 헐리스 슈퍼에서 그 아이템을 하나 안 판다고 그래서 큰 지장은 없을 거라고 제 생각엔 하고 있는데 자세히는 모르겠는데 저희 같은 경우에는 그거 하나 안 팔므로 인해 가지고 무지무지하게 많은 지장을 받게 되는 것이고요.
I don't know, how much portion about, the sales amount in the Holy Superstore liquor. It's not much of, in fact, about their business, but in his business, about the liquor, it's really, end of the way, die or, alive his business.
그래서 제 생각에는 이거를 갖다가 줘야 되는지 저 현명한 판정단께서 생각을 해주시기 바랍니다. 이상입니다.
Please consider the, all the, ABC rule and his family problems, the business owned here about 15 years, liquor store. So he don't want to say, against for the, get a permit, but please consider, tiny little store, situations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir.
I have no other speaker cards. And no hands raised and no hands raised in the virtual audience.
Okay, thank you. We will close the public hearing at 6:26. I would recommend that we take a recess right now so we have a chance to look at what we were just given.
What?
I don't think so.
There's not even addresses on here, by the way. I don't know where these folks live. How far did it go? It's just a lot of names and phone numbers.
Okay, we'll take 5 minutes.
Right.
Okay, we will open the meeting again. So any discussion from fellow commissioners? Yes, go ahead.
It would create more exposure towards you, but I think I'm
Commissioner.
satisfied considering they won't be able to directly handle the product. They would have to come over the counter to get it.
Commissioner Lenore, if I could ask you to turn on your microphone.
I don't know how much
Thank you.
exposure since it's gonna be separated by a counter and staff, I'm sure. Also increased crime. I was, and their alleged allegation that's possibility increased crime. Well, I did read Carlos Reynoso's memo. And he did quote the police beat crime statistics. And what it says is that if you're not over 20% crime index, the location is not considered unduly concentrated for the crime statistics, not the other sales of spirits. But it says the 2022 calls for service, 9,001, 183 arrests, and a 20% above average, no. So they meet the index, they don't exceed the 20% index. As well, he is stating in his summary, it says, given the type of business, because remember, it's attached to a grocery store. It's in a grocery store, Nob Hill, Lucky's, Safeway, they sell spirits, which is hard liquor. I feel like we did maybe be a little discriminating to have one Hollister Superstore. It's a supermarket, it's a good sized store, and not allow them to have the same freedom to choose to do that. So he said, given the type of business, grocery and consumer goods store, the city of Hollister Police Department is neutral through the issuance of a determination of a public convenience necessity. So I'm satisfied with this crime statistics don't exceed a 20% index. The chief is more or less giving a blessing. They're neutral. They're neutral to it. I do appreciate this, but it's such in the late time, and then I can't tell the addresses of where they're living at. But because the city is not gonna assume any liability, I don't think, I'm just gonna go ahead and say that, and the comments have been taking that I'll lean towards favorable for this. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I think it's worth pointing out and sharing with the public audience that part of the conditions of approval for this resolution comes from the police department. And I'll paraphrase just the bullet points here. One is the security system. Within 60 days of approval of this conditional use permit, the applicant shall submit for review and approval of a security system plan that includes video and audio surveillance of all public areas as required by the City of Hollister Police Department. Then it goes into the lighting. The applicant shall provide adequate exterior lighting to the satisfaction of the chief of police. Lighting shall be downward casting and compliant with the dark sky ordinance. And it goes into security contact person. The property owner shall provide 3 security contact persons to the City of Hollister Police Department. I think that's worth pointing out, sharing with the audience. And in my view, that with the questions of defensible space, questions that I had to the applicant, I feel comfortable that these issues of security and surveillance are addressed in the resolution, and that by banning or not allowing the sale of the spirits is really not it's not, to me, it's not mitigating crime. You're going to be able to purchase the alcohol in other locations. The important issues are about security, lighting, and surveillance. And I think those are the issues that I feel are addressed in the resolution.
Okay, thank you. May I ask the second speaker a question?
Yes, you may.
Okay. The gentleman, if you could return to the, I have a question, if you could come. Yeah, or the interpreter's fine. The. Yeah, so my question was, it wasn't clear to me, so are you representing West Side Liquors? Is that correct?
지금 저 리코 스토어 하고 있느냐?
Yeah, yeah.
어디서?
Okay, that's your business?
Yes.
Okay, okay. And are you the one who gathered these signatures?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you do it?
어떻게 저걸 저 사인을 다 받았느냐?
손님들한테 좀 해달라고 그랬어요.
Yes, he asked the customer, when he meet the customer, he asked he explained and he asked to get sign.
Okay, so when customers came in to the store, then you had them sign?
그렇게 된 거 맞지? Yes.
Okay. No more questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, that's not
I didn't
important to just,
understand that.
yeah. So, Commissioner Corona, did you have any thoughts you wanted to share? Okay. So, I do feel for the local liquor store, the West Side Liquor, and it is impressive that, you know, they did gather all these signatures. So I assume that they're concerned about losing business over having a neighborhood store also sell the same thing. So I can understand how they feel. Given the application, I think the applicant has done a good job checking all the boxes, doing everything that they're supposed to do to apply for this permit. I think the question that I have maybe for the fellow commissioners is what it really means to determine a, let me get the wording right. To determine,
PCN,
yes,
public convenience or
yes, public
necessity.
convenience or necessity. So I think I asked the question of the staff, and I think the answer was given was more about why you have to have it, but I'm trying to understand how you determine whether something's a public convenience or not. So I think I would ask city attorney.
So I don't believe that ABC gives specific criteria as to how you make that determination. But what they're doing is that they don't want to issue a permit where it will oversaturate or where it will, lead to more alcohol sales in a high crime area unless the local jurisdiction supports that. So that's what they're asking, is they're just asking the city to let them know that they are either in support or not in support of issuing an additional license, although the area is oversaturated. And yeah, they don't give you a way to determine that.
Mr. Chair, I have a question, Jennifer. So in the determination of a public convenience and the concentration of the ABC licenses within a certain area. So if it was over concentrated, then it would not be a convenience by allowing another CUP and a license to sell alcohol, because you have so many other establishments that are selling it within this certain district. However, in this case, with the survey that is on record, there is not an over concentration of ABC licenses. So therefore, looking at opening up a business to another business would be a convenience because it allows for, in terms of walkability and convenience from the community, to be able to traverse to this establishment for alcohol without having to get in a car and drive to another location. So that, am I correct in that point of view for a determination of public convenience? And sense of a walkability aspect?
I mean, that makes sense to me that there, like I said, there isn't specific criteria how you determine whether something's necessary or convenient. But I think it's up to you to make that determination in any way that you see fit. I mean, personally, that makes sense.
Mhm.
And I do think that some city ordinances have guidelines for this. The city of Hollister does not. And so from that perspective, it is up to you to determine if something is convenient or necessary.
Thank you.
If you could clarify, so it's not necessarily adding more to the concentration. We're just upgrading one from one permit to another, right? The number's not changing? Or is this count as another permit for the area?
I mean, it's not an additional permit, but I think, and maybe Liz can speak to this a little bit more from concentration. I think they're just, well, in those numbers, are they looking just at the type 21 or?
Yeah, so I don't know if we can pull the presentation back up, but the way that ABC determines over concentration, it's a little bit complicated to wrap your head around, I think, but it's based on a ratio of the number of licenses to the population in the census tract as compared to the entire county. So they have a ratio of the number of people living within, in this case, census tract 3, as compared to all of San Benito County. And then from that, they'll determine the number of licenses that are, I guess, their threshold. And so in this case, the number of licenses is 3. That based on that ratio, that's their number that's considered not over concentrated, and anything beyond that number would be considered an over concentration. So it's based off of the math of those ratios. I don't know if that helps give a little bit more context.
So if this was a new business, we would be adding, but since it's in a continuance of an existing business, we're not going up.
That's right. So that number
Still
3,
gonna be
Liz,
12.
is that 3 21s or 3 alcohol licenses?
So in this case, and if this was included, they issue a type 2254 form. I believe it's attachment 4 with this staff report. That outlines the number of people living in the county population, and then the total number of licenses in the county, and then the census tract, and how they determine those ratios. I believe they just refer to on sale and off sale licenses. So in this case, it's for the type 21. The off
You
sale.
have a slide, if you go back to the, right, so the census tract, what would be authorized on sale and off sale. On sale is going to be, you go to a restaurant, you get served, beer, wine, spirits, whatever, or go to a bar. Those are on sale. Off sale is going to be packaged and sold. So this would be considered an off sale.
And to Jennifer's question, I believe that off sale is inclusive of both the type 20, which are beer and wine only, and the type 21, which also includes the distilled spirits for consumption off-site.
Oh, how is it we're so large numbers over what their authorized ABC licenses? I mean, that's a decades in the making. The town was small. I mean, now it's bigger with more places and just selling alcohol. I mean, where do you draw the number at? Tonight? That's interesting.
Okay, so given that we're so the people that would the people that were, signing this petition, supporting the petition, this isn't really the right meeting for this. It's great that you have a lot of support, but all we're doing in this meeting is making a recommendation to the city council. And the city council is the one that's going to actually make the determination. So all we're doing is making a recommendation one way or another. The city council could decide to go one way or the other. So all we're doing is making a recommendation. Given that the applicant has, they've checked all the boxes and done everything that they need to do. And given that the staff, and there's support as far as from the police department, as far as at least acknowledging that it's not a high crime area. And given that the staff is recommending that we give a positive recommendation, I think I would be in favor of the first option to recommend to the city council. So for people who sign the petition, make sure to attend the city council meeting where this comes up. And it would probably, some addresses might be good with the petition. I don't, and also show up in person and speak to city council. If you have very strong feelings, come and speak in person about how you feel. And then they're the ones who make the determination, and they're the elected officials. So I think that's the appropriate, I feel that's the appropriate thing. So unless there are any more comment, is there a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number. Could I have the resolution number, please?
Give me 1 second, I gotta check my minutes, I didn't write it down. I believe we should be resolution 2023-11.
I move that we adopt resolution 2023-11, recommending to the city council the approval of conditional use permit 2022-6. Excuse me.
The-
With the conditions and findings as stated in the resolution.
Okay, did you state it was a conditional use permit?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Were there any opposed? Okay, motion carries 4-0. And we also need to do the
Do
public
for
convenience.
the convenience,
PCN.
right.
Yes,
I'll go ahead and make that motion.
thank you.
That we recommend a public convenience and to the city council. The resolution number is to adopt.
2023-12.
I make the motion that we adopt resolution 2023-12 and recommend that to the city council to approve the public convenience or public necessity of this item.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
But
go
can I
ahead.
just make a
Yes.
note here? I don't know if this is a discussion item, but maybe you'll want to just inform them that they can't appeal any decision that the planning commission makes.
In this case.
Since we have all these signatures.
Yeah, in this case, there's no appeal because this
Okay.
isn't a final
It's a
decision.
recommendation.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Delete that. Disregard that.
Okay. So who had the second? Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 4-0. We will move on to item 2, Site and Architectural Review 2022-5. May we have the staff report?
Thank you. Yes, this will be Erica Purser.
Good evening. Tonight you'll be looking at a site and architectural review for the Heritage Plaza Shopping Center. Heritage Plaza is located at the corner of Sunny Slope and Airline Highway. It's an existing shopping center. It consists of a number of buildings, including a Midas, a Big O Tires, McDonald's, and then two multi-tenant buildings, and the two multi-tenant buildings have a variety of uses, but the major tenants are O'Reilly, Goodwill, and Rite Aid. This is a picture of the existing shopping center. In this, you can see the design of the Rite Aid building, and then to the left of this photo is where the new Brass Tap restaurant will be located. This project is actually proposed to be constructed in two phases. Phase one will be the new restaurant, which will replace the existing vacant garden center. And then phase two will be the remodel of the two multi-tenant buildings. The other existing buildings on site will stay as they are today. Again, here's the proposed phasing. Brass Tap is located quite adjacent to the Big O Tires. If you visited the site, there's a narrow space between the two of them. It's now a garden center. The garden center fits underneath the existing parapet and goes back. And then what you see from the street is the outdoor area of the garden center. Again, here's a photo of the existing garden center. So Brass Tap is proposing to replace that existing vacant garden center with a new restaurant. The restaurant will be designed with a Spanish design. They are going to fit within that existing parapet. You can see that behind where you see that Brass Tap sign. You can see that's the existing parapet wall that's part of the building. And then they will have a roof, the same roof that exists over the garden center, the same sloping tile roof, and then it will project forward with a flat roof. From the front, as you can see, we have a projection over the arched doorway. There are 3 new windows where you can look into the outdoor dining area. Those windows have trim and shutters around them to promote some interest. And then for the 2 sides of the building, I didn't include an elevation because you really won't be able to see them from the street. One will be the access from the side from the Rite Aid area, and it's metal railings because it's an outdoor dining area, that front part. The other side is really right at that Big O Tire, and you are not going to see most of it, but there is a window on that elevation. So this is very, very hard to see, and I'm very sorry. But these are the 2 elevations that show how it's going to look in the interim. So on the upper elevation, that's Brass Tap with the full facade of that building. And as you can see, there's 2 different building designs as is today. There's the design over Rite Aid, and then there's the design for the rest of the building. So you can see Rite Aid has that taller, kind of plain facade. And then as you move down, there's projections over the Goodwill, some arching sloped projections. If the Brass Tap were only to be constructed on this, there are 5 different architectural designs as it is in the site, and this enhances the existing look of that building. So we're replacing the flat garden center with no articulation, little detail going on, and replacing it with the new restaurant. With phase 2, which I'll talk about in more detail in a couple of minutes, you can see where it now fits in with this enhanced design and matches the same architectural theme. So even in the interim, it's still an enhancement of the site, and it's not taking away from the design of the center because we have so many designs going on in that center. As far as parking goes, obviously we're replacing the garden center with a new restaurant, and there is an addition to accommodate that outdoor dining area, a little over 1,000 square feet. So we have to make sure there's enough parking on site. And today they have 353 parking spaces on site. And with the garden center and the uses in that area, they will have enough parking. I went out there several times just to make sure that my calculations are correct. And every time I've been out there, there's been more than enough parking in front of the Rite Aid. So they have plenty of vacant stalls as it is today. So 353 to support the proposed use as well with the existing uses once it's constructed. The restaurant does include the sale of alcohol as part of their offerings. The zoning ordinance, section 17.22.070 does not require a conditional use permit if the restaurant space includes, or if the space, I should say, includes kitchen facilities and where the bar does not exceed 30% of the total gross floor area. And the bar is 751 square feet, which is 13%. So alcohol sales are permitted, do not require conditional use. Coming to the end of Brass Tap, the existing site does not have landscaping between the parking lot and the street. The landscaping was removed prior to 2007. It was most likely removed as part of the Airline Highway State Route 25 widening. So at some point after 2007, and it's not in this picture, the owner or someone did plant some shrubs on half the site. So it's more in front of the Goodwill portion. This site is very tight. As you can see in this photo, the width of the dirt area is very narrow in some areas. It does get wider as you get to the corner of Sunny Slope and State Route 25 where the monument sign is. But even with that, their property line is shifted quite in. So with the request for the new restaurant, staff felt that it was appropriate at this time to ask the applicant to plant, to the extent possible, plants in this area. It is narrow, we acknowledge it. At some point, San Benito County on their portion of the property will likely install plants, but we don't know when that's going to occur. It's been identified that the area will be beautified, but again, there's their property between the all-weather running surface and then their curb at the parking lot. Thank you, Eva. So what we would like to have the applicant do is plant some plants in these areas to their extent possible. Obviously, in some of the narrow areas, they're going to be small. There's just not that much room in some. But as we get wider, there's the potential for larger plants, especially around the base of that sign. And the applicant can come to us and propose any sort of plant. So drought tolerant, an Escallonia, an Agapanthus, whatever they'd like to plant, we're okay with. We just like to see some plant materials because our code does require the screening of vehicles at the parking lot to screen the cars. So we're trying to get them closer to meeting the code. There's just not much that we can do in this case, unfortunately.
Erica, do we have a percentage of what the landscaping is on the site?
I do not have a percentage. We do not have the original plans for this site. This is an older shopping center, so it doesn't meet our code. And when we talk, and we'll talk about the next project, we always talk about the required percentage of landscaping, the required number of trees that they're required to have in the parking lot. But there has to be a nexus between what we're asking as part of this permit and what they're doing. If they were taking up their entire parking lot, that would be an appropriate time to ask for trees or meeting the code for landscaping, but they're not. They're just doing this addition and restaurant. So we have to keep it similar. But to that effect, we're having more cars now, right? We're intensifying the use of the site and shrubs at that point to the extent possible, because we are limited again. We feel that's appropriate. The second phase of the project, and that is not to be done until the restaurant is completed. They'd like to have the restaurant, they'd like to get going with the restaurant, is to remodel the two multi-tenant buildings. As you recall in that earlier picture with Rite Aid and the Goodwill, we have two different kind of architectural designs. And then we have a second multi-tenant building that's tucked back behind McDonald's. And they're going to replace everything with one consistent cohesive design. So now We're going to match that sort of Spanish influence. We're going to maintain the tile roof, but now we're going to change the parapet wall. We're going to have different projecting elements. We're going to enhance the materials on that parapet wall. And as you can see, the top shows our main building, let's call it, with the Rite Aid and Goodwill. And then really what you see is the multi-tenant in color. So that's what it would look like when it's all complete. So we'll go from the two buildings with those very different designs within one to now one cohesive design amongst the multi-tenant buildings. McDonald's, Big O Tires, Midas, they're all on different properties, so they're not part of this. But with that design, staff really thinks that this is going to enhance views of the site and create a much more attractive appearance for the center. So as proposed, the restaurant is attractively designed. It's going to enhance views of the existing site. It's certainly going to enhance the view of the garden center, and it is vacant right now. Phase 2 of the project will enhance the facade of the two multi-tenant buildings so that the buildings share one design theme. They'll have the enhanced parapet wall, new materials, architectural details that are not present on the building today, projections that break up the massing of the site. And through all of those, we feel that it will greatly enhance the design of the existing shopping center. Again, the new design, even the restaurant is a standalone, and then the full remodel, there'll be an attractive addition to the area. It's really going to modernize the buildings. And so it meets the intent of the general plan land use and circulation policies, LU 11.1 and LU 11.2. And this is an infill project. It's even with the addition, it falls within the allowance for infill projects, and therefore it's exempt from CEQA. Staff, you have 4 options for you tonight. One is to approve the site and architectural review request. One is to approve with modifications to the conditions if you chose to make some. You could deny the project, or you could continue the hearing and direct staff to provide any additional information or clarification if you required it. Staff is recommending that you select option 1. And that concludes my presentation on this item. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them, and I'm sure the applicant is in the audience as well.
Mr. Chair, I have a
Yes.
question. So I just want to be clear on what we're subject for approval tonight. We have a master plan elevation showing the overall scheme, and then we have isolated into this restaurant brass tap operation. So we're just focusing on this one portion of the building, right? We're not, or are we considering the whole master elevation and facade improvements?
You're considering all of it. So all of it is the project.
Oh,
That
okay.
being said, they are building it, they would like to build it in 2 phases. The restaurant is their priority right now. They have a tenant, obviously Brass Tap is a restaurant. They have a tenant, the tenant would like to move in.
And the colored elevation would be the final master, when everything's said and done to the
Mhm.
whole shopping center.
That final. So this, I only have the color
final
for the
phase.
smaller, so that's the final. But the reason that I have broken it into 2 phases is because even if you get a permit, you are not required to build. You're not required to actually build your permit. We have to look at it separately, because if Brass Tap came in and then the rest of the project for whatever reason couldn't move forward, I'm isolating the 2 so that we can discuss them separately, but then also together, because they do become together at one point. But as a planner, I have to make sure that even if it was just the Brass Tap restaurant, that restaurant meets our general plan, our zoning ordinance, and whatever design requirements that we have.
And just to clarify, this wall here, Erica, then would be the wall of Ace
That's the
Hardware.
wall of Ace Hardware.
So this is the, I
That's
think
the
El
small-
Griense is in this
Yeah.
area. And then this would be just across the driveway, the other building where Rite Aid is, for clarification.
So where phase two is, that was that colored elevation. Oh, sorry. That's the colored elevation. And then the one that unfortunately isn't in color is that entire facade.
Going back to the existing elevation, if you can go back, so that where that vacant garden center, that is going to be demoed.
So what you're looking at right here with these, I don't know what they are, posts, let's
Yeah.
call them.
Metal bars.
Metal bars, yeah. So this whole face, and you can kind of see it, see where the, yeah. thank you. See where this little, that's kind of hard to see, but that's the flat roof over the garden center. This, unfortunately, from this angle that, because I'm not that tall, this is the pitched roof. That's going to remain. That's the tile roof that matches the rest of the center.
Mhm.
That will remain, this will remain. And then what Brass Tap is going to do is the restaurant will come in underneath that parapet. It will be located in this area, and then we're gonna have a projection forward to add on to create their outdoor dining space. But this thing that you see right here, those railings, the weird roof, that's all gone.
I have questions.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So how much square footage is the Rite Aid losing?
So.
And why wasn't it noted in the staff report?
So the Rite Aid with the garden center, so the new restaurant is 5,895 square feet. What we are losing is 4,167.
Inside the Rite Aid store,
Rite Aid plus their garden center.
right? Was there construction there and then it stopped? I noticed windows and doors are already put in there. Inside the garden center.
The applicant can answer that every time I've been out
Okay, well, there
haven't
is. I
seen
saw
anyone.
it today. So somebody started and then maybe they shouldn't have. Was there any consideration given to the retail loss we're gonna have by losing a quarter of the Rite Aid or more? I mean, it is a retail business and that's a significant loss in my opinion. Now, this business is also a business, but it's not gonna give the sales tax that the Rite Aid store does. And am I assuming they're just going to adjust inside Rite Aid? Are these questions that are appropriate? Are they making adjustment in there? Are they eliminating some product? Because again, I'm concerned about the loss of retail.
So the applicant can speak to what
Okay.
their plans are with Rite Aid. Rite Aid will still be 27,009 square feet after it's all said and done. The
Again,
thing- A
okay,
restaurant is a permitted use.
yes, I understand that.
Retail is a permitted use.
Yes.
So if Rite Aid left tomorrow, a permitted use can go in that entire space,
Okay,
whether or not it's.
Yeah,
right.
hold on. I just want to ask you to refrain from
oh,
expressing your concerns. Just ask questions of staff.
that's what I was doing.
Well, you did express a concern, so.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
and then question. Okay, I'll just stop there and I'll wait for the public hearing.
Okay, any other questions for staff? So my question is, the area behind that patio, that's vacant now, correct? Rite Aid's not using that now, correct?
To my knowledge, they're not, but I think the applicant would be, I don't know if anything's gone on since I've been there, so. I was out there a week ago and I didn't see anything different, but maybe they are, I don't know what's going on. So it's vacant now. There's the storage of some minor pots on the ground from when I've seen it. But that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions for staff? Then we will open the public hearing at 7:11 PM. Any speakers?
There's the speaker. I don't have a speaker card, but go ahead.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Mike Nino. I'm the owner of Heritage Shopping Center. Just to give a little bit of clarification. Rite Aid evacuated that space when they did some downsizing about 6 or 7 years ago. That space has been vacant for the last 6 or 7 years. A permit was pulled in the interim when we took over just to separate things. So we do have just to separate some of the utilities from Rite Aid that used to have the entire space, including the brass tap area and the space they have now. When that happened, they just kind of moved out and left. Well, we needed to separate, some of the utilities and the gas and the electric and that sort of thing. So we did pull a permit at that time to do that. In addition, we also pulled the permit to go ahead and create those openings where we filled them with the windows that you're talking about. So that is all permitted. In the meantime, the brass tap came along and wanted to rent the space. And so we were in contact with the building department and said, hey, we're going to kind of put our permit on hold until we figure out the whole thing together. So that's kind of the history of that. There was never, Rite Aid is not going to get any smaller than it already is, or at least don't have any plans to. They've already done that many years ago. It's a little confusing when you walk through the door and you look to the left, you don't understand that there actually already is 5,000 or 4,500 square feet vacant over there that Rite Aid used to own or used to lease years ago, but don't anymore. But that's been that way for the last number of years.
So, can I ask a question? So, you're saying Rite Aid's not gonna have to take down the wall where all the coolers are and bring it out?
They already did.
That's already pushed forward?
That's pushed forward. Yeah, there's about 50 feet where those coolers are. If you walk through the front door and you
Yes.
turn left where the
Yes.
coolers are,
Yes.
that's about 50 feet in from where it was at one time.
They moved those? I missed that.
Apparently,
I don't remember them moving those coolers.
well, we purchased the shopping center somewhere around 5 years ago, and that was the case at that time.
So the Rite Aid will not lose any more square footage.
No,
I
they've
mean, the
already
little
lost.
Garden Center has been
Yeah.
defunct for a
The
while.
area behind the garden center, they abandoned a number of years ago.
How wide is that?
50 feet, I
50
believe.
feet?
I believe it's 50 feet.
Well, thank you, because
Okay.
I didn't realize the coolers were already adjusted.
And
It
then,
seems like major construction. So why weren't we involved in that? And if Rite Aid did that, it's tenant improvement inside, but doesn't require any planning review because it's all inside. It's nothing exterior. So did they get a building permit to do the work inside there?
I would have to verify with building.
that was before my time. You can't hang that on
Oh, they
me.
did?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
So
I'm just
we're
curious.
getting a head nod from one of our planners that yes, they did get a building permit.
For the windows and the doors, but my question is, did they get a permit for the adjustments they made inside that Rite Aid? Already?
We would have to verify. with the
Okay,
building
I'm just
department.
asking because, it needs to be done right.
That would have had been in the
Yeah,
neighborhood of
seems
6
cheap, but
or
it
6 or
doesn't
7
seem-
years ago.
Okay,
And then just one more thing, again, as was already stated, our goal is to go ahead and take care of the brass tap right now and to get that section put together. We are trying to slowly but surely upgrade the shopping center. We've had some progress along those lines amongst some of our improvements and the tenants that we have in there now. And then we're excited to go ahead and do a comprehensive remodel of the entire shopping center. But that's going to be down the road sometime when the funds become available and we're able to do it. But our focus right now is the brass tap. I'd be happy to answer any other questions if there are any.
Do you have, Mr. Nino, do you have any idea of when everything's said and done, looking at the master elevation, when that time period might be, when that gets accomplished?
Apparently, from what I understand, I got 2 years to do it, if that's correct. Once it's approved, 2 years to submit a building permit. That's my understanding.
correct.
I don't have that penciled in yet. My focus right now is on Rite Aid. On brass tap. Anything else? I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay.
Any more
There's
speakers?
Another question.
I have no speaker cards. Let me just double check. Oh, wrong mouse. I have no hands raised in the audience and I have no other speakers in the chambers who'd like to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll close the public hearing at 7:16. So what is the pleasure of the commission or discussion from the commission?
May I? I just want to say that I'm extremely happy to see the Ninos involved in this project. They build quality and I'm more than pleased because he did a beautiful job on the 800 block. I have confidence that you'll make it look good. And you're a good contractor, so, and you put up nice architectural features on your building on San Benito Street. It's not lost on me. I walk by it, I admire it every time I go by. So I'm glad to see you're gonna do some more investment in the city of Hollister. I don't know, just consider maybe putting in some more trees in that parking lot. Kmart's got a nice setup there. It provides shade and cuts down on the heat on the large expanse of asphalt. Maybe trees, because we can't put those shrubs to kind of offset the large parking lot. And maybe they would consider some trees. It does cut down on heat, like I said, and that's all the comments I have. Thank you.
Thank you. So you were comparing that parking lot to Kmart, is that correct?
For the trees.
For the trees? Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
and when they're maintained, when they trim them, it looks really nice and they serve a purpose for shade, I think, and aesthetics as well. And when you're limited on the front, which I'm glad to hear, they'll try to do something. I've been complaining for years that I was part of that Heritage Plaza approval. There were conditions for landscaping, but then the big intersection came and kind of reconfigured it all. And I don't know if COG is going to go up to or go south of Sunny Slope. I know they're going this way. So I'll have to check with COG to see if they are going to do something that wraps around that corner of Safeway. Where is the private property? Where's the, so it'll be interesting, but if they can do something to put some green, I'm happier than I am right now about the no landscaping. And then once you put it in, if you could please maintain it, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I
Yes.
agree with Carol's comments about the landscaping. It's kind of a large heat island out there right now, but when everything is said and done, you have that before and after. That's a good put in your portfolio when you get the construction done, to have a before and after, because the way it looks now is unsightly. And I think that the improvements certainly would benefit not only benefit the people that live there, but benefit the community in general.
Yeah, I'm happy to see another restaurant option and going in at that location especially. 'Cause I think it's something that's needed there at that site. Any other comments from the commission? Is there a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution 2023-13 of the City of Hollister Planning Commission approving site and architectural 2022-5 to replace the existing Vega Garden Center for the Rite Aid store with a new restaurant, and to modify the facade of the existing 2 multi-tenant buildings in the Heritage Plaza Center
I'll
with
second
the
that.
findings and conditions as stated in the staff report and the resolution.
That's what I was gonna say.
Thank you. I'm a
I'll
little
s-
rusty.
yeah, I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I didn't, was there any no's? Okay, motion carries 4-0.
Congratulations.
That's gonna look better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's gonna be nice.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 3, site and architectural review 2022-4. Jeffrey Eaton, E2 Architecture. Staff report, please.
Thank you. This will also be Erica Fraser.
Hello again. The project that you are looking at tonight is an addition and a parking lot to an existing industrial building located at 1700 Shelton Drive. This is the site plan for the project. This is the existing building. The existing building will remain. The tenant would like to add on to the rear property to build out this addition. And then as part of the project, they will be constructing a parking lot at the rear of the building, and then a brand new parking lot in this area to meet the required parking in our code. The rest of the site, so here and here, will remain the same. The condition of the existing property where that addition is located is vacant, it's dirt. Same with the new parking lot, it's currently vacant and dirt. I wanted to take a photo for you of the existing building. Obviously, it's set back quite a ways from the street. It's the brown building that you see back here. The addition will be located further behind. So you are not going to see the addition from Shelton Drive. They have a nice tree canopy in the front that further blocks any views that you could potentially have of this new addition. But again, it will be located so far back, you really aren't going to see it. This is a site elevation, so you can see where the addition is noted on the bottom, but they're projecting towards the rear. It is a little taller than the existing building, has a different roof form, but again, even with that height, the setback distance is so great that you will not see that addition. And then the existing trees further block any views that you would have from the road. Those existing trees actually provide a very good screening of the existing site. With the new addition, which is for manufacturing space, obviously we will need to have parking. There is inadequate parking on the existing site, so as part of this, all the parking will be corrected. They are, with the existing and proposed uses, required to have 223 parking spaces, and they will have 223 parking spaces. We like to keep hitting that exact number. Again, as mentioned in that site plan, the additional parking will be located at the rear of the building where it was dirt, and then on a new parking lot located adjacent to the existing parking lot. There is a condition of approval in the resolution. That parking lot is currently on a separate property and will need to have a lot line adjustment so that it is now part of this property, so it's not off-site parking, it'll be on-site parking. So that needs to be done as part of this project. So the new parking lot, the new parking lot there, that's actually a separate property. So they have to change that existing lot line right there, and they're gonna basically eliminate it. So it's now part of the 1700 Shelton. They do, yes. So now it'll be one property, so it can't be sold separately or used for someone else or whatever someone might come up with 20 years from now. It will be part of 1700 Shelton. They have to have it. That parking's required.
So the part of the site and architectural application is removal of that portion of the property line.
They've already started the process, but it needs to be completed.
Okay.
It's engineering. Landscaping will be done as part of the project. The existing landscaping will remain. There's no tree removals or any changes. At the rear of the property, they'll be installing some new ground cover and trees. And then at the new parking lot, we have a landscape buffer similar to what they have at their existing property. We have the street trees, we have trees, plants and shrubs throughout the parking lot. If you, within your conditions of approval, they're too shy of what is required by the codes. They have to add 2 more trees, but once they do that, they meet the percentage of landscaping and they meet the number of trees that they're required to have by the zoning ordinance. So in conclusion, the project is consistent with all the setbacks, the height limit for the light industrial zoning district as conditioned, especially with the lot line and the landscaping. The project meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance. They will have adequate parking to support the existing and proposed use. Once again, that addition will not be visible from Shelton Drive. And the design, the landscaping, and the entire proposed project is consistent with the goals and policies of the general plan. And because the addition is located at the rear of the property, is located on a small sized parcel, it is under the project area for infill. It meets the the CEQA requirements for an infill exemption. Once again, you have four options tonight. You can approve the project. You can approve the project with modifications to the conditions of approval if you would like to do that. You can deny the proposed project, or you can continue the hearing and direct staff to provide any additional information or clarification if you would like it. Staff is recommending that you select option one for this one. And that concludes this presentation. I'd still be happy to answer any more questions if you have them.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, looks like we have no questions, so we will open the public hearing at 7:27. Any speakers?
I have no speaker cards. I think it's still just Chief Bedoya in the audience. Let me double check. Yes, and I have no hands raised.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing at 7:27.
Mr. Chair, I have a
Yes.
comment on the plan file, the plan presented tonight. I compliment the architect, very comprehensive. It's nice to have a separate accessibility plan and a circulation plan to illustrate, you know, for example, the circulation plan. I'm sure that Charlie would find that easy to read with the hammerhead and backs, how to fire trucks can circulate to the site. And the accessibility plan, which shows accessible routes, sometimes that gets left out, or it all gets put on a composite site plan, which becomes busy and hard to read. And this, I put a lot of time to divide those issues on separate drawings. I think that is very commendable. That was a comment I had.
Thank you. It's nice to have an architect on.
That's
the commission.
wonderful. You don't know how much I respect him
Oh, thank you.
and utilize his advice.
Any further comments or discussion from the commission? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adopt PC resolution number
14.
Yes.
2013-14. Thank you, Commissioner Lenore. And to approve site and architectural review 2022-4, along with the conditions of approval in the draft resolution.
Okay, sorry, I may have misheard something. You said something about 2013.
It'll be 2023
Okay.
dash 14. That'll be the
Okay.
resolution.
That was a good year for me. 2023. Thank you.
Okay, sure. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. We will
Thank
move
you
on.
for your investment very much.
Nicely done. Thank you.
We will move on to item 4, zoning ordinance amendment 2023-5, City of Hollister. Staff report, please.
Thank you. This will be Director Christy Hopper. Let me know if your
Got the
pointer's
boss up
working.
here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You better be careful. Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. This has kind of been a long time coming before the commission, although you probably haven't heard about it. But staff's been working very hard on this particular amendment, something a little bit different for the Planning Commission to look at. So what we're looking at tonight is a proposed amendment to the municipal code, repealing a particular section of the zoning ordinance, actually replacing that with regard to mobile food vending, and then amending chapter 10 of the municipal code to include a section on mobile food. So also looking at amending the land use tables in our code to include mobile food vending as an allowed use, and also then modifying some definitions to include specific terminology associated with mobile food vending, which is always great when, we're trying to figure out what type of use or, trucks change or trailers change. It's great to have those very clear definitions. So just a background on why this is before you tonight. There has been an influx of mobile food vendors that are wishing to operate within the city. Perhaps you've seen them already operating within the city. And one of the reasons why you're seeing that, and why we're coming before you today is our existing code is pretty outdated. It really limits the areas where these mobile food vendors can operate. As when we look at those, really it is more towards in the northern part of the city in the industrial areas, what you would consider maybe your underserved areas where they wouldn't have a lot of potentially even more brick and mortar restaurants, but it was very limited out in the airport and industrial area. And the only other caveat is when you would not need a permit to operate mobile food vending is I always say is that they're ice cream trucks, because somebody will hail you down. You can park for no more than 10 minutes. And then you have to be on your way, but you wouldn't be able to actually park, prepare food and sell and have people queue. So the city council, this came to some council members' attention, and the city council did direct staff to prepare new regulations. So as we talked about, the zoning code, chapter 17, very severely limits where mobile food is allowed. And it really doesn't address the community needs, what we're hearing from the community on what they want. If you were at the farmer's market the other day, you saw how these mobile food vendors, people were pretty excited about it. And so those are the types of vendors that are really looking to operate in other parts of our city. And also in looking at mobile food vendor types, and we'll go over what the planners are proposing for different permit types. Also, this whole chapter is not included in the appropriate chapter of the municipal code. The majority of mobile food vending occurs in public right of way. The zoning ordinance talks about what happens on private property. And so we're modifying that. We're going to look at what zones, and then it's allowed use. And we're going to be addressing then the permitting process in the appropriate municipal code section. The proposed ordinance is what you're used to seeing coming from us to you, much more of a standard format, an easier flow and easy read in the ordinances, and which would go through all of your purpose and findings, definitions, applicability. And then it has those rules and regulations by permit type, which I'll get into in a minute. There's licenses that are required, spells those out, the operational standards, tells people the trash, you got to make sure that your area is clean when you leave. So it's all those types of things that we all get concerned about when you have a mobile operation that especially would have food or disposable items. So then it also addresses restrictions for sales around children in schools, which has come up in other jurisdictions, and also just in talking about this, some concerns about where the mobile vending would operate. We talk about how we're going to approve and issue permits and what happens if you violate the code. So your suspension and revocation, expiration, and then there is a renewal process because we want to make sure that people are operating, and if they have violations throughout the year, there's an opportunity that maybe we wouldn't be renewing a permit. This is just an overview of the city. And the location applicability is pretty much everywhere now. When we look through the zoning areas, really you are looking a little bit more out on the northern part of the city where the mobile food vending would have been permitted. So currently, they would be allowed in North Gateway, light industrial, airport business park, and airport. And then proposed is pretty much everything else in the city. And I'll go through when you see residential. I know people get a little, what are you talking about? There are a lot of restrictions when it comes to the residential areas.
Can I stop?
Yes, ma'am.
Your proposed addition to the land use tables under North Gateway is saying it's not allowed in the short term or developed on private property for North Gateway. Only a long-term operation in the right of way.
Mhm.
Is that correct? You just said, it's then up here, it says currently allowed in the North Gateway. What's the zoning? I'm sorry, I need to know this. What's the zoning of the old KFC lot? Is that not North Gateway, but a commercial mixed use? Or is it downtown commercial mixed use? Do you know what it is?
It's downtown mixed use, that property.
So that's a downtown mixed use. So it's a mixed use zoning district?
Yes.
Then it would be, okay. I'm concerned about that lot and its ability to maybe do something in the future.
So I want to definitely talk about the one type that we're not talking about, and that is, what do we do for more permanent uses on private property? And I'll get into
Okay,
that.
thank you.
I'll get into that in just a second.
She answered my question. I appreciate it.
So really, when you think about mobile food vending, you have your ice cream truck that goes around, has a little chime. Hey, there's some kids. I'm going to go over and sell my ice cream and I'm going to leave. That's kind of how the old way of, or the Schwan guy comes and drops off what you've already ordered at, or you could flag them down and get your frozen food. Things have changed a lot. You've got people that are looking at, hey, I just want to operate wherever I want. I want to go to where the lunch people are for that lunch hour, or I want to go, I want to be able to have a lot more flexibility within the city. That would be your short-term operations within the public right of way. That is a 1 hour, you can park for 1 hour on a block face, do your thing, and then you have to move, and you couldn't come back to the same block face for 4 hours. It helps to eliminate congestion of maybe really popular areas, if this is the type of permit that they decide to get. They can also apply for a longer term operation within the public right of way. Usually, these would be for, in the industrial parks are perfect for this, where they could actually go and park for a much longer period of time, a period of 4 hours, and just kind of set up shop in that one area, and then they would need to move. A lot of what I've seen with the mobile food trucks, 4 hours is about, they're about done after that, and go take a break and maybe come out for dinner. And then the other one is private property operations. And we're looking at two different things. A private property operation, let's talk about maybe the Target shopping center. Somebody would go and talk with the property owner, property manager, and say, I would like to locate under certain times, I'd like to park my truck on your parking lot. They would be able to do that under the private property operations. This is truck by truck or vendor by vendor. This is not mobile food courts. Okay. So that is something that what the city is going to be asking for is, under this permit, we know that you have the property owner's permission to operate on their site. They could only operate while that business is open. They have to operate within the parking lot, in a parking space. They have to have a safe queuing. So there's a whole bunch of regulations on how that's going to work. Some people like that just for, they've got a good relationship with a business. Maybe what they serve goes well together. See that a lot in Austin. You see a couple of them on there. So that's the 3 types of permits we're looking at under this ordinance. The one that Commissioner Lenore, you're talking about is, well, what do we do with these vacant sites where we've got vendors that want to congregate? And so it's like this mobile food truck court, which you're also seeing that's gaining popular throughout the United States as well. That is something that's going to be addressed as we're going through the zoning ordinance. That is a land use issue, much more than these kind of more temporary vehicle permits, if you will. Okay, so it's more of a land use issue. You can have, if somebody wanted to utilize an area and do a temporary use permit, I've got an event I want to do, they could go through a temporary use permit as long as it's on private property, and go through that type of process if they wanted to operate. It would be difficult because of the requirements that we would need to have for restrooms and and all of that for a temporary event. Unless they're near a park or in the park. Okay, so going through this in residential zoning areas, and it's going to be pretty limited where you could park in a residential zoning area when you see the restrictions on that. But those would be between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. In the other zonings, it would be 6 AM and 12 AM to allow that flexibility. I'm thinking in the downtown, you've got operations. I know sometimes I've heard from the police department, they especially like when there's food options later on at night, helps sober people up, that type of thing. So, but that they would have the ability to operate in those longer periods. So the short term, like I said, would be 1 hour at a time at one location. And then they would have to have the 4 hours passed before they came back to that location. And then you have the one block. And a lot of this is going to be honor system. However, what I have found, and when we implemented this exact same program in the city of Monterey, it is very self-regulating. There's a lot of competition out there. So if we have somebody that sees that a blue permit, maybe the blue permit is the 1 hour, and they're parked there for more than 1 hour, we will hear about it. So there's a lot of competition out there, so it's pretty much self-regulating. The long-term, maximum of 4 hours, and very, very few really want to do that. But some, if you're going to stop, you need to set up a fryer. You can't really move. That's where we're looking at the people that want the longer permits that maybe have a little bit more of a complicated dish that they're creating. And then the private property, as we just discussed, and that would be the established business hours or an alternative schedule, but that would be outlined in their permit. So the residential, I added this in. I just want to make sure the vendor does have to, that it states in the ordinance, cannot park directly in front of a residence. It's a little redundant, but because it also says the vendor has to maintain 50 feet from a single family residence. So that will prevent, your taco truck from parked right out in front of your house. Although I've heard some people would be really, really happy about that. So, but this was more of just the preservation of our the residential character and also no operations on private property. So they couldn't go park in somebody's driveway and operate. So there's a couple prohibited areas that were identified and in discussion with other departments within the city. This has circulated through all of the different departments for comments. There were 2 streets that were considered unsafe to have food truck operation, and that was 4th Street between West Side and Monterey, and also pretty much all of South Street. There are photographs we've seen of how people park on South Street. They end up parking on their landscape strips because of side swipes. And it's just because of the narrowness of the road. Those were the 2 that we were prohibiting because of safety reasons.
That's just a little stretch there that you're talking about, because the rest of South Street is wider. It's only.
Well, and that's the question that I had, and we may still be developing this. The question
Yeah.
that I had sent out is it all of South Street or
No.
is it a portion?
2 blocks.
That is just that. The kind of the consensus was they really wanted it to be all of
Okay.
South Street.
That's fine.
There's no confusion then.
It's not the widest street when you got cars parked there on both sides of the street. So.
And we would also like
Yeah.
to encourage people to park on the street instead of on the landscape strip. So, hopefully.
Yeah, they don't have a choice on the one from west to Powell. There's no room.
Yeah.
It's the only place in town. I forgive them for going up on the curb.
Right.
What are you gonna do? There's been a lot of sideswipe cars on that block.
The type of permit would be an administrative permit. So the planning commission, these are really in the public right of way. This is something that would be, we're not sure which department, likely it'll fall in planning, but would be reviewing the permit types and issuing them. And also the city is embarking on a user fee study, and that fee would be determined with that study. But there are a lot of examples on the implementation of this type of program. And so likely Hollister will closely align. So our recommendation is to take option 1. You know your options. So would be to adopt a resolution recommending the city council approve the ordinance. So you'd be repealing 17.22235 for mobile food, amend chapter 10.24 stopping, standing, and parking in specific streets and areas. And then let's see, we got land use definitions and terminology as it relates. And so that concludes my presentation. I will take any questions.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question on hours of operation. Can you clarify why residential areas have longer hours of operation than other zoning districts?
They were actually shorter. It was 8 AM to 6 PM. The other ones would be, here, let me go.
Can we go back to that slide?
Yeah. Oops. So residential, 8 and 6, all other would be 6 AM to 12 AM. So non-residential areas and including mixed use areas had the longer
Oh,
allowance
6 AM
to 12 AM.
to 12 AM. I see.
And if I might add a little bit of context to that as well, we had talked about, you know, kind of different kinds of mobile food that we've seen and that we might anticipate. And being a commuter town, I'm sure you're all familiar with Cafe Con Leche. That's a coffee truck. So we might have breakfast or coffee trucks who might want to come in early in the morning out in maybe the North Gateway or the industrial and catch the kind of breakfast crowd. And then we also might have some trucks who want to come when some of our other restaurants in perhaps the downtown on a Monday or when there's not as many things open and be open for an evening. So we did discuss the range. It's not untypical. Sometimes other cities close a little earlier at 10 PM, but our recommendation was kind of a wide range to accommodate potentially a wide range of proposed businesses and trucks.
Yeah, the extra 2 hours that came in from 10 PM to 12 AM, there was a good point. And this is existing. This is where the town shuts down around 10, right? And so this extends things a little bit more because we do have some, you know, a few operations, especially the bars that stay open later. And if there's no food options, that can be, you know, you do have the fast food and everything, but this makes it a little bit more convenient. So we figured that the additional 2 hours would allow a little bit more of that flexibility, especially when the brick and mortar restaurants close for the evening.
Thank you.
Question. I think I can guess why there's not gonna be included in the downtown mixed use. But what is there, are they not gonna be included on West Gateway? Cause there's a whole plan, you know, gonna be, what's the reason for excluding them on the West Gateway? Cause you're allowing them in the North Gateway, but not the West Gateway. I'm assuming downtown is because they didn't want the competition, the brick and mortar, the competition, because they have a lot more expense than food truck. But I didn't understand West Gateway zoning district. I know there's a plan proposed there. I didn't understand why it couldn't at least be on developed private property. Maybe not appropriate in the right of way. It's a big street. But what about on private property in the West Gateway?
Hold on, I'm taking a look at that.
Okay, it's on your, your use tables,
Thanks.
land use tables.
I do think, Commissioner Lenore, that table might be slightly inaccurate. So I'm just going to read our proposed rules. So in short term, we're proposing permitted zonings in residential, home office, mixed use. So that would be West Gateway, downtown, and neighborhood mixed use.
Hang on, please.
And I
I'm
am
gonna get it
looking
down
at,
because if it's not right, then that doesn't do me any good. Start over.
yes, so short term, so the 1 hour and then you have to move a block. Residential
Okay.
with the restrictions that Director Hopper described earlier. And then we have home office, all of our mixed use zoning districts, so that would include
Okay.
neighborhood mixed use, West Gateway mixed use, and downtown mixed use. And then our commercial zoning districts.
Well, wait a minute. It can't include the mixed downtown mixed use because you're excluding it down here on the bottom. Are you saying it's in?
It's in.
Yes,
Really?
Yeah. I believe this chart didn't get updated.
I think the
Okay, go
chart,
ahead then.
yes,
Let's keep
yeah,
going.
so I'm reading
So
our,
short
Oh,
term is
you're reading the right
everywhere.
one. Go ahead.
I'm
Short term
reading
is
it.
everywhere.
Okay,
yeah,
got
We'll
it.
just say that. Short term is everywhere.
Short term is
Yeah.
everywhere. Okay, go ahead.
and then for long term, we're looking at North Gateway mixed use and our industrial zones.
So let me talk a little bit about why. And this was the experience when I helped put this together in the city of Monterey. The discussion had been, yes, everybody should be able to do the 1 hour operation. Let's do that within whatever restrictions. The 4 hour, the longer term was to really focusing on kind of what we currently focus on is the underserved areas. So where you don't have a lot of options, food options, is to be able to allow people to park for longer. And it also helps, it's a branding too for them because they're like, hey, everybody knows that the pizza truck's gonna be there, you know, and we'll be there for 4 hours. So I don't have to take my lunch exactly, you know, at 12 to 1. And so it's in more in those underserved areas that are
Yeah, I
currently.
don't have a problem with the
Yeah.
times. Okay, so the long-term operation, start again, it's only gonna be 2?
So long-term as currently written, it's North Gateway, mixed use and industrial, but I think we might have meant to say commercial.
What's the proposal? What's the proposal for long-term operations? in
So
the
I have
right-of-way?
commercial, industrial, mixed use zoning in North Gateway.
Okay. North Gateway, mixed use zoning, industrial and commercial zoning. So is that accurate? And you said
That's the,
downtown mixed
that's
use,
the intention, not downtown.
not
mixed use.
downtown for long
No.
term. Okay.
Nope.
Okay, so those are correct.
Mhm.
And then developed private property, what you got on those?
Commercial, industrial, mixed use. zoning.
Commercial, industrial and mixed use and not North Gateway. So that was also correct.
Correct.
Okay,
So
Just
really, the
clarifies
short
it for
term,
me.
you should have just filled in the rest of them. With, so it's in all zoning districts, they would be able to do the 1 hour.
I could have a taco truck in my driveway.
No, not in your driveway. That's on private property and residential.
Oh, you can't do that.
Ah,
I'm not
gotcha.
doing that. I'm just saying. Okay, thank you.
How
That's
does-
all the questions I have, Chair.
Thanks. How does this mesh with the farmer's market? Is there any conflict there?
So what's happening with special
Good
events?
question.
So special events is being addressed differently as well. So there's all sorts of different permitting and a lot of discussion that's happening within the city right now. The special events usually there's a street closure, there's a parade, something like that. So the farmer's market itself, it has a permit for a special event. And food trucks are allowed to be a part of that special event.
Food trucks outside of the farmer's market area? You see?
No.
Maybe you
So
should
no,
put
they're
a
not.
footage requirement on that.
So outside of the farmer's market, outside of an approved special event, mobile food vendors need to adhere to our current ordinance. After the ordinance is adopted, they have more flexibility.
Right. You have the potential for them butting right up to the farmer's market and almost looking like part of it. Maybe we should put a foot requirement on that. You got a little boundary, a little buffer there from the special events area. Or they're gonna come right up next to the special event. And maybe you want that, I don't know.
And
That might take away from the special event.
when this is what, well, that is a good question and I will take note of that.
Okay,
Thank you for bringing that up.
I mean, I could see them parking right on the boundary.
We do have a proposed standard. I'm gonna try and find the draft section here.
Yeah, I know it does address.
Yes, so section H, and we're gonna have to reformat the ordinance before we get it in kind of ordinance form for the council, but H, which I don't have a page number, but we are 2 pages from the end. And
here it is, yeah.
So
Yeah.
anything that wants to be a part of a special event will be permitted through the permitting of the event itself. And then any mobile food truck who has not been granted a permit to operate at a special event must remain at least 500 feet away.
Oh, it says it.
There you go.
I think I did read that.
Yeah.
I missed that. I
We
did
just
not
wrote
read
it in
that.
especially for you
I
right
missed that.
now.
Thank you. That answers it. I
Yeah.
missed that. Well, that's
There-
why I'm here.
There's so many different things to think about with this ordinance,
Yeah.
and I really have to thank our the planners that helped put this together, because there was a lot of research in a lot of different communities trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, and so there's a lot of lessons learned, and we can always beg, borrow, and steal, right? But and then took what really happens in the city of Hollister, and we're able to create this really, I think is a very comprehensive ordinance.
Better than what we have.
You mentioned Austin.
Mhm.
Yeah, I went to Austin once and I was told about this place you could go where there's a bunch of food trucks. parked.
South Congress.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So is this ordinance making something like that?
No, because they're a little bit more permanent. You can
Yeah.
see what sort of happened in Austin is they got so popular is you can actually see a food truck that has like meat on a stick, which is some of the best meat I've ever had. And
Mhm.
bars will actually have developed around them.
Mhm.
So it's a total interesting phenomenon that's happened in Austin. That's not what we're anticipating here. This is just, really temporary operations within the public right of way and some limited on private property.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Does that conclude your report?
does.
Okay. Any other questions for staff?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't.
All right, we'll open the public hearing at 7:57. Any speakers?
I have no speakers, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We'll close the public hearing at 7:57. Okay, any discussion or motions from this commission?
Okay, I'll move then. I move that we adopt resolution 2023-15 of the City of Hollister Planning Commission recommending to the City Council approval of a zoning ordinance amendment to repeal section 17.22.235 mobile food and amend chapter 1024. With the findings, is there findings? Well, there's not really findings. So, as the resolution has stated, there's not findings or conditions. It's a recommendation.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second? I will second the motion. Any further discussion of the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. We will move on to new business. Any new business?
I have no new business.
Move on to old business.
I have no old business.
Thank you. Moving on to planning department reports.
Yes, I'd just like to make a report to the commission that Liz Gagliardi, our associate planner, she, as you know, she is with Four Leaf and she's been offered an opportunity at Santa Cruz County to assist with their disaster recovery permitting center. And so we unfortunately will be losing her in the city of Hollister, but it's a great opportunity and we're very excited for her. She'll be part-time for the next few weeks. But so I may try and steal her for the next planning commission. But she'll be helping us finish out some of the complicated projects she's been assisting us with. And I'm just incredibly grateful to have had her assisting our department. I know she hasn't had many things come before you, but that's because she's been working on some very complicated projects. So her work has been phenomenal and I'm sad to see her go, but very happy for her. And I, again, just thank you, Liz, for being here. And we're excited for
What's
you.
your last name, Liz? Okay,
Gagliardi.
good luck to you.
Yeah.
Sorry you're leaving.
Yeah. Thank you for your service and congratulations on your new opportunity.
And probably a better paying job.
Was there any other planning department reports?
Not at this time.
Thank you. We'll move on to planning commission reports. I know we're going to have at least one report. I know-
I'm gonna do a report.
Okay, please go ahead.
It's not as good as I wanted it to be, but I didn't want to bore you either. So, hey, it's like wrap it up. Okay, so on Wednesday, the 29th of March, I attended the first thing I attended there was the Understanding Public Service Ethics. So I was able to get certified and it's a biannual thing every 2 years. So you have to do that if you're gonna hold office. I did present my certificate to the city clerk. That was on Wednesday morning, when we first started. I took the opportunity to do that. So now I just have to do the sexual harassment one that's also required training for everybody anybody serving the public. After lunch on Wednesday, I attended When the Gavel Strikes, and it was tips for efficient, effective public meetings. It said the public meetings will often be the only non-services based interaction a member of the public has with the agency. Public meetings establish the face of the agency. Transparency and inclusion build public trust, credibility, and confidence. Efficiency, process, and preparation are key. So that's what I got off of that. It touched on the growing problems of disruption is on the rise, and it cited cases in the mayor in Los Gatos and Placentia Yorba Linda Unified School District and a San Diego Board of Supervisors meeting. And there's so many more, and I know everybody's aware of that. It is certainly a concern. Later on Wednesday, I attended the Planning for the Future. It was creative strategies and lessons learned. And one of the recommendations was for agencies to have pre-planning meetings with the community. I think we do that a little bit. Maybe we could do it more. The city obviously should, and in my opinion, has encouraged participation. The commission should have a relationship with staff and bounce opposition off of them. Controversial projects may benefit from workshops and surveys, and we do get those controversial projects. It touched on design standards. It stated they can't be too restrictive. This is a new thing. Well, it's been a while now, but they recommended having a guidebook and to develop a form base for design. They also suggested the commission have site meetings where we might go out to a site. We really wanted to, maybe it's a big project we want to see. So that's on. In the mixed use, they want to incentivize inclusionary and density bonus, encourage ADUs, and utilize specific plans when it's called for. It was noted that generations want different things, so we want to encourage different housing types. On Thursday, I attended processing housing development applications under SB 330. SB 330, I'm sure you've heard of it, it amended the Permit Streamlining Act by imposing new timing requirements in considering housing policy projects, and amended the Housing Accountability Act by imposing limits on an agency's consideration and disapprovals of housing projects. In addition, SB 330 created a new streamlining process and vesting mechanism by creating a preliminary housing application, which is coming. They also spoke about what staff and planning commissioners need to know and be watchful for in processing and considering housing projects. I can't go into all that, but you definitely want to read SB 330. Thursday morning, I attended relationships between planning commission, city council, and staff. It recommended getting involved in other cities, observing, maybe not getting involved so much, but maybe going to some other meetings and observing. Well, of course, you're always free to speak. Meeting with the city attorney and being up to date on city council policies. So that's important. So we're not, they run the show. In closing, I encourage the planning commission. Oh, wait, okay, so I'll do this. Okay. And then also, I couldn't get to all this, but on the last day in the morning, they did go through legislation. And there was a lot of bills pointed out, and SB 4 is going to allow schools and institutions to develop housing and also housing for higher education. And there's no CEQA requirement, but it must be 100%, except 20% could be moderate, and it limits the parking requirement. SB 634. Opportunity housing, it's targets very low income, maybe in relation to tiny homes. Then there was AB 1532 office conversions, use by right. So I believe what they were saying there is there's development fees waived for 10 years because they're going to allow them use by right for office conversion. You need to read these. I know you think it's just local, but it's really not. When I got on the council, I got even more attuned into the legislation of Assembly bill and Senate bills, because it trickles on down and we all know that, but it's trickled down a lot of planning. So, so those are just some of the things. So in closing, I encourage the Planning Commission, Mr. Chair, to invite the city attorney's office to give us a rundown on the SB 330 and SB 35. And their SB 35 is regarding the cities not meeting RENA numbers. It's very important. There's repercussions for not meeting the RENA numbers. It needs to be spelled out. The more we talk about it, the more the public will understand that we just can't say no. And it's even more, we can't say no. Okay, I can't sit up here and say that's ugly. Okay, so in closing, I encourage that. And then let's see, then SB 9 is also another important that requires city to ministerially approve projects if they have met all the city requirements. So I hate to tell the public, but it's a little bit going to be a little bit different now. As what I've seen, planning is, we have a housing crisis in California. And they talk about it for the last 10 years, but it's not just a crisis, it's an urgent crisis now. This is the answer. This is why we don't have housing for low-income folks. This is why the homeless don't have enough housing, because we were saying no, 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 and then see push came to shove, and they want it done. So that's what I came away with. Thank you so much for your time, and thank the city for generously allowing me to go and footing the bill. I tried to put everything to good use and bring back a good report. And I think we could talk about future stuff with our legal advice. Thank you. Let you go now.
Thank you for that report. I think the city got its money's worth.
They've gotten their money's worth out of me for 30-something years.
Okay, so you raise a point about maybe making a request to the city attorney. So I'd
She
just like to
actually did say she'd come and do that, because I went to, you were there. She said,
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd be happy to. In my mind,
Yeah.
I was thinking about kind of new legislation, but it sounds like you're interested in
planning stuff.
So old and new.
Yes,
Okay,
because we really don't have a good grasp on the old yet.
it's
And-
complicated.
It's complicated, but the people need to understand. I was on the council, and you know how it is. They didn't want development. But you got to explain to them why. Not that I want the city to grow out of control, but we have a legislature that's giving us direction, and they're giving us money to do planning. So they gave us several thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do planning. They didn't mean do planning and then sit on it and don't build anything. Thank you.
The other benefit of a presentation like that is just a refresher on, yes, a lot of local control is taken away, but the city does have some options on, for example, the adoption of objective standards
That's the,
and things like that that we can talk about again. I know that they were presented, I believe last year, that the planners have worked on. So just kind of a refresher on that.
can you
Just-
get to those before David leaves?
He's never allowed to leave.
He's gotta
So-
leave, and we need him here for the objective design standard discussion, please, if at all possible.
I plan to be here at least through August.
Okay, I don't know what the timeline is, but even if you're not on, I'm hoping that you'll give us your words of wisdom
Well, thank
when
you.
it comes to that, because staff is gonna take on a whole
Mhm.
new, very, very important role. If I can't say it's ugly, then they're gonna need to say it.
Well,
I
by
know,
having,
I
by
want
having,
attractive buildings for the city of Hollister. That's why I do it.
yeah, we're having the objective standards is certainly going to take that subjectivity and it's going to go away.
I know, and I have confidence that these planners are gonna take care of it. I do.
I do too.
If not, you're gonna hear from me.
So Commissioner Lenore, I just wanted to also point out that I think before your time last year, that the staff gave some really good study sessions and covered a lot of topics. So
I was
would-
gone then.
yeah.
Yeah, I was
encourage-
taking a little bit of time off.
Yeah, right.
Tell me,
so-
what did I miss? Oh, can we talk? We can't, huh?
No,
Okay,
I think,
Okay.
Carol, I think you did a great job on your report
Thank you.
about the academy. Thank you very much.
Let me get on subject.
Any other reports? from the commission? Okay. Okay, we're come to the adjournment. So I was reading somewhere that we don't actually have to have a motion to adjourn it. I can just adjourn the meeting. Is that correct?
It's true. It's kind of personal preference, but the meeting ends when you all leave, so.
Unless there's an objection, we want to stay here longer. Bring up
Okay.
the reports.
Right. Okay, well, then I will adjourn the meeting at 8:11. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.